Hi, welcome to the newest episode of Sports Talk Central. I'm your host, Deep Mahmood, with my normal co-host Hunter, and today we're going to be talking about some football or soccer news, depending on where you come from. With Lionel Messi going to Inter Miami. Then we're going to be talking about DeAndre Hopkins and Dalvin Cook being cut and what that could mean. Then we're going to continue with should college baseball have pitch limits, and then also we're going to talk at the end about Novak Djokovic beating Roger Federer for his 23rd straight, 23rd Grand Slam title. So let's start with Lionel Messi to Miami. So Lionel Messi, the news broke a few days ago that Lionel Messi signed basically a 3-year contract that's worth at least 53 million a year to for Inter Miami, which is co-owned by David Beckham. What was your thoughts when you saw this?
I mean, that's just a crazy deal. And if you were keeping up with the story, he declined a $1.6 billion deal to play for a Saudi Arabian team. You got to be filthy rich and just everything else to decline that kind of offer because I don't think a lot of athletes would.
He's also from Argentina, so maybe Miami was close to Argentina in terms of
Yeah,
lifestyle.
it's also like Florida's a no state income tax state. That's also very persuasive in getting athletes to go there. And also, I would say it's pretty easy for fans to go down and see him. Miami is a very popular vacation spot anyway. If you can plan a trip around seeing Messi and maybe going to South Beach or seeing other games, stuff like that, I think that's going to be very popular among people. There's a lot of people in this country who have never watched him play. And I mean, I don't blame people because how many times has he ever played in the United States? It's super, super rare.
Yeah,
It's
that's World Cup. It's like you just watch him in the World Cup and that's it.
Yeah, and and honestly, I don't think he's playing in the next World Cup.
He'll be 39. He'll be about 39 years old.
I
So
don't think he's going to be playing in that. You never know. He just won one here, so he could just ride off in the sunset when it comes to that. But even though the World Cup is going to be here in 2026, I just don't think he's going to be, playing for Argentina at that point. But this is going to have a lot of people flocked to go see him. He's one of those athletes where I think a lot of people are like, he's must watch, right? There's certain athletes that are like that. You can say that about, Roger Federer or, Tiger Woods when he was in his prime or, Tom Brady when he was at the peak of his powers or, LeBron James, people like that. With Messi, he's arguably the greatest soccer player we've ever seen. You could easily argue that he is. Inter Miami is going to sell a lot of tickets. Heck, have you seen the social media following that they've got now?
it's increased. Yes, it definitely has increased.
Increased a lot. So those games are going to be sold out, and rightfully so. It is huge for the MLS to get someone like Messi playing for that league because a lot of times the MLS is kind of considered. I wouldn't say it's considered a joke, but it's kind of
G League for the Premier League.
yeah, it's like a G League for Premier League and some of these other big leagues
Or
overseas.
retirement home, or like you could look at it as like a retirement home as well.
Yeah, but now that Messi is there, it's a big deal. So this is huge for the sport of soccer, but also just for the sport in the United States, especially as it's probably going to get more people either watching it, whether it's that team or whether it's the U.S. national men's team or whichever.
Yeah, and here's the other thing you got to consider with Messi going to Inter Miami. So first of all, we know that David Beckham did go to the Los Angeles Galaxy for 5 years, and that was but more beneficial for marketing at that point. It was about 5 years, 32.5 million when he signed over there. By the way, they actually created a new David Beckham. They created at that point in time a David Beckham rule because you couldn't pay anyone more than 2.1 million. But MLS at that point really wanted David Beckham. But yeah, you look at what he was doing, only 18 goals in 5 years. Obviously, he was loaned to Milan for I think a year or two there. Then you have Zlatan Ibrahimovic. He went to LA Galaxy for 2 years. He actually had 53 goals in 2 years, and honestly could have continued. But if you guys have seen Ted Lasso, the character of Zava in season 3, kind of it is based off Ibrahimovic, and he is one of those like kind of free spirits. Like he would kind of go to a team for 2 years, 2 or 3 years, and go to another team. He basically said, "You wanted me, I'm here. I'm going to go to another team. Go enjoy baseball." Like those were his exact words when he left. But he clearly would have continued. But he was dominant. I think Messi's going to be dominant in Miami. I think this is a smart move for him, but also a smart move for MLS because if you think about it, Zlatan went to LA Galaxy, Beckham went to LA Galaxy. I think this is the biggest next high profile name, and I like the fact that he went to Inter Miami because if you look at geographically Miami, Cuba, Brazil, Latin America, there's that huge Latin American culture in that area of Florida. Latin Americans, they love football. It is kind of their culture there. So he chose the right place, in my opinion. Like I said, he's from Argentina, so clearly, I think maybe there's some similar lifestyle there. I think maybe Cristiano Ronaldo may have made his decision because I know he signed with Saudi Arabia as well. He made his decision. Maybe he could have waited a little longer. Maybe he does come to MLS now. Um, that's the next guy to look out for. But I think it's definitely great. Now, what I do like about it, we all know what he is as a player. He's box office. He's good. He's solid. He is going to make that place work. They're going to sell out, especially with David Beckham now being he's been him being a co-owner for a while there. But with David Beckham, when he went to LA Galaxy, it was really about marketing. It was okay. So he's not in the prime of his career, but they really wanted him to build a brand. Zlatan Ibrahimovic is kind of the same thing. And even though this is still a little bit of a G League, a little bit of a retirement home, it's like it does. It's I would like to see MLS kind of eventually become more competitive. So to the point where these guys are coming into the MLS when they're 28, 29 years old instead of 33, 34, 35 years old. That's the next step. I think the marketing, it was a marketing type of thing first, and then you're starting to see some big name players come to MLS. Now the goal is to get these big name players at an earlier stage of their career because the thing is, how many players on the US team are choosing to play in the Premier League rather than the MLS? So you want to build a brand of football or soccer wherever you come from, you got to get those guys ultimately to MLS. And then the best way might be to do that is start getting these, even if it is short term, get a Messi, get Ronaldo when his contract's up with Saudi Arabia, get those guys to MLS even for 2 or 3 years, and then maybe you start to see guys when they're 35 years old, then you're going to start to see guys when they're 33, 30, 28. And when you get these higher profile guys, then you're going to keep your homegrown talent. When you keep your homegrown talent, that's when you're going to see soccer continue. And obviously, you have Ryan Reynolds and Rob McElhenney with Wrexham. You got the Natalie Portman, Jessica Chastain, the team they own in women's soccer. Obviously, the popularity of Ted Lasso. I think we are starting to see the soccer kind of growing in the United States. So, do you think that this is increasing? Do you think this is going to ultimately be a good step in building this brand in the United States, or do you think it's just messy for a short time in Miami?
I hope so. I mean, I do want to see the brand, built up a bit more because, there's a lot of, young and exciting, just things about the sport to, get hyped about in this country, whether it's, the Riverhounds and this city of Pittsburgh here, they beat a couple MLS teams recently, with the MLS in general, with some good world-class players playing. And heck, I'm pretty sure, Gareth Bale, he from Wales, he was playing in the MLS.
Maybe, yeah. There are a few others as well.
I know. I believe he was playing in the MLS for the last couple of years, and he's one of the best strikers in the world. So to have that kind of talent playing in this country it doesn't even have to be a full year, but like for at least a season or after that, that's big for especially growing this sport in this country. You can also watch the team coming up, Nations League and the Gold Cup. There's going to be a lot of fun games with that team. They don't. I know they don't have their new coach yet, but with the talent that they have going into those tournaments, they should be the favorites to win both, especially with that new guy that they just signed a few weeks ago. Balgowin, I believe, from England. He chose the U.S. over England. it's an exciting time, I think, for the sport in this country, and especially with the World Cup only a few years away from playing here. If there's going to be a huge home field advantage, the time is now to really invest in getting into, the national team and just the sport here in general, because it's going to be crazy when the World Cup comes here in a few years.
Yeah, no, I also forgot to mention J.J. Watt is a minority ownership of a football team as well.
Right.
I forgot which team it was, but he has a minority ownership. It's just his confluence of seeing seeing shows about soccer, then seeing celebrities own soccer teams, and now starting to see some of these big name guys, at least with Messi, kind of going to the United States. It's a great time. Like, I'm personally not like I haven't really had an interest. I haven't had incentive to be incredibly interested in soccer. It's always a sport I've been interested in, but like I think like most people, I haven't really had the incentive. But this is kind of I have found myself kind of being more interested and kind of learning about all the rules and being more invested. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely a great story. And let's move on to one form of football to the other, and that's we have DeAndre Hopkins cut by the Cardinals. We have Dalvin Cook cut by the Vikings, and then Daniil Hunter. He might be a trade chip. I think there's some noise about Chase Young, if he's potential. No, I don't think he's a trade chip, but again, what his future is going to be. What are your thoughts on all these guys potentially on the move?
Yeah, I mean, we saw the DeAndre Hopkins move. It says something that they had to release him. They couldn't even get what they wanted in a trade for him, which I thought was kind of interesting. It looks like he's going to
Salary. I
be
think it was the salary. They didn't want to pay the salary, and either the Cardinals didn't want to pay it, or teams don't think he's worth that much enough to trade for him. One of those two, or both.
That also would make sense. I believe he's visiting the Titans today, and that's going to extend into next week. It's very interesting considering that he played against the Titans 14 times when he was a member of the Texans. Makes sense that they would go after him. I think they could use the wide receiver help. I also saw a rumor deep that he's going to be maybe visiting the Patriots. No surprise there.
Yeah, no surprise. I don't buy that he's truly interested with the Bill O'Brien thing, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I saw the rumor that I think they're considering going after him. I don't know if he's fully visiting them yet. I don't think that's been announced, but it makes sense that they would be interested because they could also use some wide receiver help. I would assume the Buffalo Bills would get a visit, probably the Kansas City Chiefs as well. They can never have enough weapons. Maybe the Ravens, so I don't really think that's been rumored.
They've been too quiet. They've been way too quiet on that front, and it just seems like a Ravens type of move. I mean, we have to see more on what it would be, but they're a team that had lost depth of receiver. They have just been making move after move. I know they signed Treadwell, but they need bodies to throw. They need someone disposable receivers to throw the ball to catch the ball. Sorry, in the preseason. So I wouldn't ignore the Ravens because they could come in at any point in time, especially if the Odell contract is part of the reason why some of these teams are backing off.
Mm-hmm. But no, that would make sense as well. We'll just have to see if that gets confirmed if he's going for a visit. Dalvin Cook, the Dolphins. I mean, look, I know they have so many weapons, but Mike McDaniel and them, they're never afraid of going after and getting more. The Jets with Breece Hall, that will be a really good 1-2 tandem. I've seen rumors about the Dallas Cowboys. I don't think they're going to be splitting carries with Tony Pollard again. That kind of just defeats the purpose because they released Zeke Elliott, who was splitting carries with Pollard.
They drafted Deuce Vaughn, the guy from, I forgot where he was, but in the 6th round. So it seems like they're moving forward with Tony Pollard. That would be weird.
I don't see the rumors with the Cowboys being accurate or true, whichever word you want to use. Denver, I saw them rumored as well, Adit. I think that makes sense.
Don't they have 4 running backs already? Devontae,
but I mean, they have what? Melvin Ingram, I believe.
Melvin Gordon.
Melvin Gordon. That's
guy that went to North Carolina. I can't remember his name.
Yeah, I know exactly who you're talking about. That's I know who you're talking about.
Why don't you continue? I'll look it up.
Yeah, the Broncos though they were rumored, I think, from Adam Schefter. He's going to want a big contract. That's the big thing. He's not going to sign for cheap. This is a player who has more than
5. It has to be more than $5 million.
Yeah, 4 straight seasons of 1,100 plus rushing yards and 1,300 plus yards from scrimmage. He's going to get a big contract. I mean, I don't know if it's going to be like a 5-year deal, but I think it's going to be at least a 2 to 3 year deal for whoever signs him. He's still one of the premier backs in the league. You know, the Vikings, they wanted a fresh start. Good for them, but he's going to have numerous suitors. Could he go to another team?
What about Steelers? For
no, I don't. They have Jalen Warren and Najee Harris. I don't think they're going to go after Dalvin Cook.
Okay.
I don't. You know, those teams that I mentioned, you know, they make sense. You know, maybe the Commanders, that could make sense, I think.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of a lot of these other teams, but you know, the Bills, but they don't have a lot of cap space.
Well, I mean, yeah. Let's see what the Leonard Floyd numbers look like, but yeah, I mean,
what are your thoughts overall? Just to
so I think he could go to the Bills. I mean, team him up with his brother. That could be interesting. The Chiefs seem to make sense because they do pass the third ball to the running backs, and I don't believe they put the 5th-year option on Clyde Edwards-Helaire. So maybe you do, you bring in Dalvin Cook, and I know they have Isaac Pacheco, but it's good insurance if Isaac Pacheco is not as good as he is. So if you have Dalvin Cook, I mean, just imagine that offense: Dalvin Cook and Travis Kelce with Patrick Mahomes. I mean, that's just a filthy offense right there. So don't sleep on the Chiefs for him. Dolphins seem like the very obvious fit, especially if you put Cook in a Kyle Shanahan type scheme. I know Mike McDaniel came from San Francisco. Their Commanders seem to be interested. It seems to be an interesting fit. Eagles already have 2 or 3 running backs. I can't imagine they'll do that. So I mean, it is going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting to see where he lands. Titans are interesting. Titans for Dalvin Cook could be interesting. I mean, you have that Derrick Henry, Dalvin Cook.
That would be interesting. Would they really pay that much for both of them, though?
Well, if you think about it, they would have a rookie quarterback, right? So whether it's Malik Willis or Will Levis, whoever it is, maybe they do want to do the 12 personnel thing just to ease their quarterback in and kind of do the Chig, the guy he went to Maryland as their primary tight end, and then maybe focus a little bit on the receiver. So less on the receiver. So maybe there is a strategy there of kind of doing a Greg Roman or run first scheme, what they've been doing in the past, and having that 1-2 punch of Henry and Cook could be a way to make life easier for the rookie quarterback. So that's an option there. Maybe the Texans. I don't know. I forgot. I don't know what their running back situation looks like. The Texans could be interesting because Dalvin Cook wants money. He wants money. The Texans have a rookie quarterback. It seems like a perfect fit. I mean, it seems like a perfect fit with that. So it is going to be interesting where he could go. By the way, for the Broncos, it's Javonte Williams. That was the guy we're talking about. So Samaje Perine, Tony Jones Jr., and Tyler Beatty. Those are the Broncos running backs.
Oh, they released Melvin Gordon then, right?
Yeah, they probably released him a while ago.
I forgot about that.
That's interesting. But Saints could be interesting. The whole Kamara.
With Kamara.
Yeah, that could be an interesting thing. I think.
What about the Panthers?
Panthers are interesting. I mean, they know the guy from Philly, the guy that played for the Eagles, Miles Sanders.
Yeah.
So that's I believe it was Miles Sanders that went to the Panthers. So maybe that's a good fit. So Dalvin Cook should have a bigger market. It's all going to depend on who's going to pay him the most money and who's going to pay him give him the biggest role. I think that's where it's going to be. As for DeAndre, but I'll say this before I move on to DeAndre Hopkins. The thing about Dalvin Cook, it tells me they're going to go all in with Justin Jefferson. That is going to be their highest paid player for the next few years because they can get out of Kirk Cousins after a year. They just drafted Jordan Addison. They let go of Adam Thielen. They let go of Dalvin Cook. Looks like they're willing to trade Danielle Hunter It seems like they are preparing to pay. They're I don't think this is going off the reservation here, but Justin Jefferson, highest paid receiver. I think that is going to happen. I think we are looking at Justin Jefferson getting 32, 33 million a year. And I think that they are going to go with a rookie quarterback. Do you think that is possible? Do you think that's likely going to happen within the next 2 years?
I mean, I think so. Yeah, especially with Minnesota.
Yeah,
I do think so. I don't think Kirk Cousins is going to be there long term. I don't think it
yeah.
makes
So I
sense.
think this is his last year. This is his last year.
Yeah, I mean, how much longer does he have on that
1 year
contract?
left on contract, 1 or 2, but they can get out of it after this season.
Yeah, the cap hit wouldn't be that
Yeah,
high to pay him if they released him. So, yeah, I can see that. I mean, the quarterback class next year is pretty decent to say the least. So, or you can look at the free agent market too. But yeah, I do think if this is Kirk's last year, they'll have a lot of cap space to go out and get someone or draft someone. I just think they've kind of reached the end of the road with him. So you're right. I could definitely see that.
and then as for Hopkins, I think the cutting Hopkins, I think what it tells me is that they're not sold on Kyler Murray. They're not sold on him because if they move on from Hopkins and you start taking away weapons, if they don't sign Hollywood Brown, I think that's gonna be the biggest sign. They are not going to they're not sold on Kyler Murray. And the fact is, think about all those picks they traded. They have multiple picks now in the first round. Let's pretend we're assuming one of those picks is going to be top five. Is that a fair assumption? One of their picks?
I mean, Kyler Murray is expected to miss most of the season, so I'm not sure I would fully agree with you on that. Just because, like, I don't know if they're not fully sold, just because he's going to miss like 3 months. I would say I don't think he's expected back until December. So I think they just wanted him to get a fresh start. He seemed like he wasn't happy in Arizona anymore. You can keep saying, "Oh, he's in our plans. He's in our plans," but if this guy keeps making hints or dropping hints,
Yeah, that's
excuse
what I
me.
said. He's not like that. I don't think that's going to last long. That was my point. I think that it tells me they're not going to last long. Whether it's after this year or after 2 years from now, I don't think it's going to last long on that one. I think letting go of Hopkins is not going to be a good look or not be good for him.
Yeah, like you could have kept him for the season and then released him, but like you're probably just going to lose a lot of games. So why not just eat a little bit of money now, have him go somewhere, and then you can figure out what you're going to do after this season going forward because the team is not going to be that good this season because again your quarterback's going to be out until December.
Yeah, and I don't think I know people are going to say the people are making the assumption that oh, this means that the Cardinals could be in the market for Caleb Williams. Like I don't think it's for that. I don't think it's for this year's quarterback class. I think maybe we're talking 2 years down the line. And I don't know who the quarterback class is going to be 2 or 3 years down the line. Obviously, the big names Arch Manning, but it's going to be interesting what they do there. But yeah, so let's move on to the third topic, which is pitch limits in college baseball. So for those who haven't followed the College Baseball World Series, we're seeing guys, Paul Strain, who actually is a popular pick to the Nationals at 2, throwing 120 plus pitches. And then we have a guy from John Hopkins throwing 164 pitches in a game. What is your general thoughts on this, and do you think there should be pitch limits in college baseball?
I do. I think that's way too many pitches. You don't ever see that happen in the minor leagues. You don't see it happen in the major leagues. It should not happen in college like that, especially because again, that's just too many pitches. You don't want these pitchers blowing out their elbows before before they even get to the minors, because even when they get drafted, it takes them a while to get up to the majors. They have to develop down in the minors, and you have to go through many years of that. You don't want to just ruin pitchers' arms before then. So I do think there should be a pitch count. I think it should probably be capped at, I don't know, probably like around 115, 120 anyway, or maybe you can go a little lower than that.
I think 95 to 100 probably.
Yeah, I mean, that's fine too. The days are almost gone even in Major League Baseball, I feel like, where you see pitchers go over 100. It doesn't happen much anymore.
Yeah, and you definitely feel it. Definitely hurts like the next start. Like you definitely see when you see guys in major throw 110 pitches. Watch what happens in their next start. They often struggle. Like it's not beneficial to their arm. And And obviously with someone like Paul Green, who's going to be a top 5 pick, like let's be honest here, LSU might have the number 1 and number 2 overall pick this year. So if you're LSU, Paul Green's a top 5 pick, and he's already guaranteed that. You don't need to show, hey, this guy can throw 101 miles an hour on his 124th pitch. The guy's going to make a lot of money. He's going to be a top 3 pick, I think top 3. Like I said, I think Nationals take him at 2, but he doesn't need to prove anything else. So, and then and the more you do this, the more it will hurt. Like obviously, we're not going to talk about it. It's a bit of a longer top discussion per topic, time per discussion. But obviously, we had Steven Strasburg have the issue that he's having, and DeGrom having the issue he's having. So you don't want that same thing. You don't want to set up that same thing with these college guys, and it's negligence. And I get it. The player wants to do it. You gotta sometimes save the player from themselves. And look, here's the other problem that you have with it. With these guys going more pitches, how much less time are some of these relievers? How some of these freshmen, some of these sophomores, how many less innings are they going to get? And I'm talking about not guys that are going to be first round talents, guys that are 12th, 13th, 14th, 15th round talents. You're also robbing them of. You are also in a way robbing them of the opportunity to show why they can't be a top ten round talent. So to me, if you want to recruit, then spread out the innings and just say, hey, we'll take you from a 15th round talent to an 8th round talent, and just keep selling that idea. Like LSU is going to have, like I said, 2 picks in the top 5. That's a great recruiting trick that they have there. So it's just insane that that this stuff is still happening, and it's just they do need a limit at some point. So let's talk about the last one, which is Novak Djokovic defeats Roger Federer, wins his 23rd title. What are your thoughts?
Well, I mean, like he's had more majors than him, for a couple of years now. So I don't want to, clickbait anyone or anything like that. But he broke the tie with Rafa Nadal today with 22. He has 23 now. Roger ended his with 20. But the whole basis, I think, for this was, I mean, I can be as big of a Roger fan as I can be. I can be a massive homer, which I am, but I think I know enough now that he's not considered the GOAT anymore. Since Djokovic has 23, he's one away from tying Margaret Court for the most ever. She has 24. I think he's going to finish with probably 25, maybe more than that by the time his career ends. I don't think it's a slight. I don't think it's a hot take to say that he is the greatest tennis player the world has ever seen. He's done it on any surface. He's beaten Nadal at majors. He's beaten Federer at majors. He's beaten Murray at majors. He's beaten all these young people at majors. He's gone through some injuries. I may not like him that much due to many reasons, but he's the best I think the sport has ever seen. And, the way he beat Casper Ruud today and then Alcaraz in the semifinals and everyone else throughout the French. Yeah, he took advantage of Rafa Nadal not being there, but he was still by far and away the best player at that event. And I think he's the greatest tennis player we've ever seen, at least on the men's side. The women's side, you can definitely argue Serena, you can say Margaret Court, very fair arguments there. But, Djokovic, I do think, for a while I still thought Federer was the GOAT, especially when he had more majors, but I knew that wasn't going to last super long. But with Djokovic now being ahead of both Federer and now Nadal, I do think it's time for, I think, everyone to say that he is at least the greatest men's tennis player of all time. He's only going to keep adding to the majors. So congratulations to him. He's not going to be retiring anytime soon. I think Nadal is eyeing next year after Federer retired last year, but Djokovic, I think, is going to keep on rolling until he can't anymore. So that's really my spiel on that.
Yes, I mean, like everything you said is true. I mean, yeah, Djokovic is one of the better players. I don't follow tennis too much. I know you follow a little bit more, so I did want to allow you to talk a little bit about it. But considering it was a major event, so you kind of said everything I would have probably said. But yeah, so we'll end the show on that note. Next week we're going to be talking about the NBA Finals, just our quick thoughts on that. We're going to be doing I think we'll do some baseball talk next week as well. And if there's any NFL news, we'll do that as well.
Yeah, we'll be back next week.
No, 2 weeks. 2 weeks. 2 weeks.
Oh, yeah. We'll be back in 2 weeks since it's a little bit of a slow period, but we'll be back to once a week once I think training camp really rolls around.
Right. Yep. See you then.
Okay. See you then.